Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Rachel and today I wanted to talk to you guys about designing a t-shirt. First of all, yes, I know that the image is chopped off at the top of the bottom and I super apologize for that. It's just that my shirt design is a portrait. YouTube unfortunately is landscape only, so here we are. If you really want to see the full image, you can go over to my Instagram account and see the little chopped off parts. Anyways, in this video, I want to talk to you guys about my design process, about how I created my design, the process of making it ready for the printing and choices that you're going to make once you are at that stage and all that type of good stuff. So I've been wanting to make a t-shirt for a while. I really love t-shirts. I own a lot by artists that I personally love, and I was like, I want to do this. Let's do this. So here we are. I've done this. I do this. I started off with a diamond shape. For me, shirts are really fun if there's almost like a shape within a shape, like a graphic design. And so that is where the idea came out of. I also wanted to play off of the theme that I did for my YouTube banner, which is drawing is freaking magical. Because it is. I know. It is corny. It is cheesy, but it is my truth. I feel it in my heart that drawing art for me just gives me so much joy and I love it. So I wanted a shirt that also celebrated that fact. And the top part is a girl who is an illustrator who is holding a pencil aloft, and from that pencil this rainbow shape is flowing from. On the opposite side is a witch. She is riding a broom, and in actuality she was really inspired by not only me drawing witches in my comics, so I'm keeping with what I love, but also Kiki's Delivery Service and Cardcaptor Sakura by Clamp. That affected actually the clothing that they're wearing and why they're so girly and fun and playful. It's interesting because for a really long time I have avoided anything that was really girly. I think it's because growing up I really wanted to be taken seriously. I wanted to be seen as an equal. I'm an intelligent person and I just didn't want to be discounted because I'm a girl. How weird is that was like a conscious thought since I was in elementary school. And I liked the color pink up until the age of 6, and then I was like, screw this crap. My favorite color is green. Currently actually it is Indian yellow. That's besides the point. What I'm saying is that I have decided to fully embrace my love of girly things because they're freaking awesome, and why not? Anyways, that's not what this is about. So yeah, the design is inspired by things that I love, and I feel like that's really important. I feel like you need to draw things that you love and that give you joy. I have a mentor he is really adamant about this point, and I agree with him, because when you are designing things that make you happy, it shows through in the drawing because you take the time and the care to make those things the best that they possibly can be. And there is a type of happiness that you impart on the illustration itself. If you were just drawing things to get as many people to like you, or because you want to do things that are popular, but you yourself aren't enthusiastic about those things, the drawings are going to be okay because you're just going to say to yourself, good enough, and put it out there. Whereas if it's something that is like close to your heart, you're going to take the time and attention to really craft that as well as you can. So that is what I did with this shirt. I didn't do a fandom. I didn't do anything like that. I did something that I truly love and brings me happiness. So that is one thing to consider when you're designing. Another thing to consider when you're designing is readability kind of the shirt from a distance and up close. That's also why I decided to go with a shape, because even if you couldn't see the characters at a distance, you could see this graphic shape from a distance and it would look nice, right? And I also put a lot of curves in this, whether it was the rainbow or the star shape, their hair, their clothing. even though it's in such a structured format, the shapes within are curved because curve gives movement, it gives flow, it elevates and makes things feel alive. So that is something to consider when you are designing how you want it to come across, why you want it to come across that way, and then make choices accordingly. So think about those things. Also, when you are designing, you do need to think about the printing process itself. You're never going to be able to get lines as fine as a pencil line, but you can get them pretty darn close. I would have to say, when you look at shirts that have been screen printed, you can probably get them about the size of a large micron pen, which is about like 0.8. So keep that in mind, or maybe even a little thinner, to be honest with you. It really just depends on the screen that they're printing on, like how fine the mesh is. I'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, keep that in mind, that if things are too tiny, they're not going to be able to pick it up and it's going to get lost. So here we are. I've drawn it out. I'm finalizing the drawing right now, but once you have your illustration done, you are going to need to, if you've done it like me and it's a sketch, I'm using Procreate, by the way. When you're changing the lines, if you didn't already do it like in a larger, I'm like ink format. I'm like, how do I even say this? When I finalize the line for this illustration, I'm actually using the mono pen because it gives me a consistency in line quality, which you don't have to have. You can have more dynamic lines than that go from small to thick. But I use the mono line tool on the smallest setting, and when I had it reviewed by the person who will be converting the file to a vectorized file, wow, I'm using a lot of terminology that if you are not an artist or you are just starting out, you're like, I don't know what the crap she's saying. But he said that my lines were perfectly fine. So if you have Procreate, just using the mono pen tool, lowest setting, you'll be good to go. When I say vectorized, what I'm talking about is the type of file that an image is. So a vectorized file is one where if you make it really big or super tiny, the quality of the design doesn't like get blurry or diminish. Whereas if you blow up something on Photoshop or Procreate, you're going to see all these little squares. Those are pixels. So a vectorized file doesn't have that. When they take my finalized line drawing, because I'm not sending them an Illustrator file because I don't have Illustrator right now. I'm sending them a TIFF or a Photoshop file because Procreate can do a Photoshop file, and then they're converting it. And they're doing it into they're going to do like a live trace, which kind of smooths things out, and it also kind of potentially chunkifies things a little bit. So they should be sending you back a proof of your illustration for you to okay. Make sure that things didn't get like too blurry or smushed, or things didn't cannibalize other areas that you're wanting them to be distinguishable. So check for that when they give you your proof. Okay, so right now I am doing the lettering. Lettering is something also that you need to consider in your design if you are, to make sure that it matches the overall design aesthetic. That did not match my design aesthetic, and so I went in and did a more flowy, soft, fun type of font as opposed to a very structured. Please consider your fonts when you're using them, if you do on your shirts, that they need to incorporate well within the illustration itself. So they can also help you with that if you need. But anyways, so when you have finalized your drawing, you've been inspired, you know what you want to do, you're sending it off, they're giving you your proofs back. What then? So some of you might be doing this online. I mean, I could have done this through like Threadless, and then I don't have to worry about printing and all that jazz, but I wanted to personally own them and to sell them. You do make more money that way, but the downside is you're investing all that money up front, a couple $100, and then you're planning on selling them to make that money back, right? And hopefully more money, but that might not be the case. with something like Threadless, you don't have to worry about that, right? Like you put it up there, they sell it, you get money back. You're not going to get as much money, but it's a much safer bet. So if you're worried about doing it, I would go that route, to be honest with you. Anyways, so you've sent it off, and if you're doing it online, I feel like there are a few drawbacks. Most cities have a shirt printing business. I would go to them. I would go to them in person. I know somebody who works at a shirt printing business, and I went down to visit them, and I'm really glad that I did, because a lot of things, if you do online and you're at kind of like, you're shortchanged because things don't always look the same on your monitor as they do in person. So I was able to see the shirts to pick out a color that I want, and I was able to see the inks and see the inks next to the shirt color to make sure that they worked well together, because sometimes things look a little, if I had chosen a pink that was actually like a blue or a warm undertone, but the ink was the opposite and it was a warm or a blue undertone, it would look really odd, to be honest with you. So being able to see both of them together and making sure that they're both warm or they're both blue is important. So go down to your shop, look at the types of shirts and inks, and make sure that they work together. Things to consider when you are picking a shirt is, the softer a shirt is, the more the weave is going to loosen over time, which will affect the print. And the stiffer it is, the more durable it is, and it's not going to do that as much, but it's not going to be as comfortable, right? It's not going to be as nice. For me, I chose Bella Canvas. I chose them because I have purchased several shirts by artists that I like, and that is a company that is used quite a bit. You don't this is not an endorsement for them. It's just I felt comfortable using them because I've worn those shirts. So, yeah, so you're going to pick a shirt blend that you're wanting, and then you're going to be choosing an ink. When you run your hand over a shirt and you can literally feel the print of it, that is a plasticine ink, meaning it is made from plastic and it sits on the top of the shirt. Over time, that ink is going to crack and break, which if you've owned any of these shirts, you've seen this, right? It doesn't happen immediately, but like over time it does. If you use a water-based ink, it is going to fade over time because they're dyeing the fabric, and then as the weave of the shirt loosens over washings and heating, it is also going to break apart the fibers, and you're going to see those fibers showing through the print, and so it's going to give it like a vintage look over time. So for me, the choice made more sense to have a vintage looking shirt than a cracked shirt. So those are some things to consider. Again, if it's a softer weave fabric, that happens more quickly. I don't know, like 2 years for this shirt, but 1 year for this. Like, I don't know exactly how it breaks down, and it also depends on how people treat their shirts, right? So if you're washing a shirt that's been screen printed and you turn it inside out and you wash it and then you let it air dry as opposed to putting it in the dryer, it's going to last longer. There is, I want to mention, another type of quote unquote screen printing. It's not, but sometimes people say that it is. What it is think of it like an inkjet printer where the ink is being like laid out on a shirt in that manner, and then it's being heated and cured. But those prints are not as durable. I know this from personal experience because I bought a shirt and it cracked and like broke off, and I found out later that that was a process that they had used, but they had said that it was like a screen printing, but it's not really. And I was so disappointed, and I never wanted to do that to anybody that I was selling products to. So make sure you know how the shirt is getting printed when you do your ordering. So those are the types of inks that you're going to be considering. You can do water-based inks also on a dark shirt. What happens then is they bleach the area and then they put the inks on top. It's probably more expensive. I don't know because that's not the process that I'm doing, but just a heads up. When you're ordering, it is going to be more expensive than you doing it yourself long term. What you're paying for is the vectorization of the file. You are paying for all the equipment that they're using and the inks that they are using and their manual labor, but you're saving yourself a lot of time, right? Like you're not the one who's spending 30 hours printing off however many shirts. Pricing is also going to be determined by how many shirts. Different companies are going to require a different minimum amount. It could be 30 up to 100 depending on the company. And yeah, these are things that you need to consider. Remember to turn in your file as a black and white file, and you should be pretty good to go with anything. The shirts are only going to cost a couple bucks a piece, which is going to be, it's not actually going to be all that bad. So yeah, hopefully I have answered some questions that you might have had if you're thinking about designing a shirt yourself. To be honest with you, it really wasn't that bad. Going down to the print shop itself was really helpful for me and answered so many questions that I had, and yeah, pretty much an overall enjoyable experience. So thank you for tuning in and watching. Bye.